Well, good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, August 2nd. August already. Anyway, yesterday morning, I was up early and I went out and did the chickens and grabbed some eggs and stuff. And as I brought them in, I'm thinking, I have to do something with my eggs. I have to do something with them, because you get so many and then you end up throwing them out. And, I hate throwing out anything, but especially eggs. um, but so I was online and I was looking, to see what are some of the best ways to preserve eggs other than, like baking and making stuff and then freezing it. Um, so I was looking and there were three different ways that I found on there that people are using to preserve their eggs. Um, Chicken eggs. Yeah, preserve their eggs. Um, One of them was freezing them, but you don't freeze them in the shell, because you freeze them in the shell, it just makes a mess. But if you scramble them, and then like one guy put them in a silicone muffin tin, muffin, yeah, pan, and froze them that way, and then you can just pop them out. He said if you put them in a metal pan, it makes it really tough to get them out. So use a silicone if you're going to do it that way. And you can do that with store-bought eggs too if you want. But anyway, so you can freeze them. One lady actually had leftover breast milk bags, so she used those and just scrambled up like two at a time, or I think she was even separating it out, doing like these are egg whites, two egg whites in here, or whatever, so that she has them for, like if she's going to bake and she just needs whites or she just needs yolks, she can do it that way. But one thing, if you're freezing them, they said you can't freeze them whole. I mean, you can, but it certainly wouldn't be good. You have to break up the yolk and like scramble it, because the yolks, when they freeze, they get to be like little gel balls and they don't thaw. I mean, they thaw, but they stay like a gel ball. So best way to do that is to scramble them and then freeze them, and they're good for 6 months to a year, I think. In there, I think they said something like that. um Second way to do it, I watched a guy actually dehydrate them. So he scrambled them up, but when he cooked them, because he actually cooked them, but he cooked them with no fat or oil or anything. um so Yeah, so when you did it that way, because the fats and the oils, they don't let it dehydrate really well. They don't lose all their moisture. And you need it dry, because what he does after that, so he scrambles them, and then once they're done, and then he puts them on the screen in the dehydrator, and then puts them in for, I can't remember what the temp was, but he puts them in for like 18 hours. But then when he took them out and he did the little crunch test, and they were crispy. So so he put them in like a little spice grinder, and pulsed them up and then made them into a powder. Which, I mean, that's pretty cool, because then you have, however much you want at a time, and you can store a whole ton of it. Because I mean, he did like, I think he did 5 eggs, and he got like this much in a jar once he powdered them. So, you know, that's pretty cool. But yeah, so there was that. But the one that I saw the most on there, and I watched several people do it this way, and they all did it the same way, which was pretty cool. It just, when you see a whole bunch of people doing it the same way, it kind of verifies that it's a good way to do it. But it's called water glassing. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. But you take the eggs and you put them in like a container, like most of them were using like a glass mason jar, one of those gallon size with a wide mouth on it, so you can get your hands in there. But when you put the eggs in, you want to put them in pointy side down, the same way you're supposed to store them in the fridge or in the container, in like an egg carton. You want to do it pointy side down, and I found this out, or I learned this, because there's an air bubble in the egg, and the air bubble is down on the round side, not the pointy end. So you got that air bubble there, and if you put it in with the air bubble on the bottom, the yolk settles. And when the yolk settles and gets towards that air pocket, that's when the yolk can go bad. Did not know that. So, you put them pointy end down, and that way then the air stays up on top, and the yolk, as it settles, it gets kind of, the whites and stuff get to the bottom, and the yolk can't go all the way to the bottom, so it centers the yolk in there as well, and it just keeps them fresher longer. And when you go to cook them, your yolk is good and right in the middle. So when you do like deviled eggs, yeah, works out good. So when you put them in the big container, you put them pointy end down as best you can, because it's kind of hard to do that in a jar. But yeah, you fill up your jar or put up however many eggs you want in there, and then what you do is you take you use water, room temperature water, preferably filtered because you don't want chlorine in there, and you take pickling lime, and you do like a quart of water, and into that goes, I think this is like a quarter cup or thereabouts of pickling lime, and you mix that all up, and then you pour that in over the eggs, and you want to make sure that all of the eggs are submerged. Of course, if there's any floaters in there, take them out because they're bad. Yeah, I found that out too. The way you can tell if an egg is good to begin with, you put it in water. You can use a big bowl or a glass or something, but you put them in the water. If they float, they're bad. If they sink right to the bottom and stay there, fresh, or they're good. If they go to the bottom and then just kind of bounce a little, and there's they don't make it all the way to the top, but they're not sitting at the bottom, those are the ones you want to either eat right away, or for safety's sake, just toss it, So yeah, but anyway, so you pour this pickling lime water solution over the eggs. Make sure that they're completely submerged, covered. Seal it with an airtight cover lid. That way then the stuff doesn't evaporate out of there. But you do that, and they're good for up to, I think I heard, up to 18 months. One guy said 2 years. I don't know about that, but at least 12 to 18 months. And in the wintertime, the chickens will go through a lull, probably a month or two where they're just really not laying much. So that would be a good time to have those eggs available to you. And those that are water glassed, they say that you can actually use them like they're fresh. It keeps them fresh. But one other thing is, you cannot water glass the store-bought eggs because they are washed. You have to do it with eggs that are not washed. Clean, as in like no poo on there, but you have to leave that bloom on. So when the chickens lay an egg, there's a covering, or I don't want to say oil, but there's like a film on the egg, and what that does is it protects the egg shell protects the pores from bringing in any kind of bacteria. So you don't want to wash that off until you're ready to use it. But when you put your egg in there and you cover it up, if you've washed that egg, that lime can seep into the egg, and you you don't want to do that. So you can do it. You can do it with the fresh eggs from the chickens, but you have to leave them unwashed. So I learned a lot about that. And as I'm watching these videos, I'm thinking, okay, so I know how to do this now, and so I think that's what I'm going to end up doing, is water bathing or water glassing, just because I think that's going to be the easiest way to do it. But as I'm watching, I came across this one video, and I can't for the life of me remember what channel it was, but it's a homesteading video, and this lady's on there, and she's talking about, it's just basically video of her throughout her day, what she's doing and what she does. And I'm watching, and I'm thinking, she is, she's got her apron on, and she's working in the kitchen. She's making dough, like a pizza dough, and then she's making pizza rolls, but they're more like a cinnamon roll type, but they're pizza rolls. Um, and she's talking about how when she grew up, her family, her mom and dad were of the boomer generation. And she said they went through a lot of, not depression, but it wasn't like it is today. There were things like, she said, they didn't decorate the house like like they do today. They didn't have seasonal decor like they do today. It wasn't a, got to keep up with the Joneses type thing. It was, you do with what you got. And she said the houses weren't elaborate. They weren't, all crazy. Like she said, they just used what they had and made it work. Her mom was, every meal was a home cooked meal. She said very rarely did they go out. And she said, and that actually made it memorable when they did go out, because she said you just didn't do that. But I mean, making everything from scratch, I mean, you're not just buying a cake mix, you're making the cake mix, adding your water, your flour, your baking powder, all of that stuff. And you're doing it all from scratch. They had a big garden, so they had all kinds of stuff in their garden. She had a big herb garden. She knew she was going to be using parsley over the next few days, so she went and cut her parsley and put it in a vase on the counter. I mean, it's cute and it keeps it fresh, and she doesn't have to go outside to get it every time she wants to use it. So there was, stuff like that. How she was just, she's just walking around, just, cleaning. But everything was very methodical, deliberate, but relaxed. I mean, I'm watching her and I'm thinking, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to be like that. That's what I want. you know, um, she was talking about, housewives back in the day. She said they actually had classes on how to be housewives and how to be a homemaker. She said they had classes on that, which yeah, that's home ec for those of us, I don't even know if my kids took home ec or not. I think they did, but when we took home ec, it was I think we made cookies and I can't remember what else, maybe chicken or something. I don't know. I can't remember. And then we sewed a pillow and I think I made my dad a gun case. And then we had shop class. But, like Bill was saying, when he was in school, he's only 5 years older than me. So, but when he was in school, the girls took home ec, the guys took shop class. A little weird, but okay. I mean, that's the way it was back then. God, it makes me feel old when I say that. But so I'm looking at this video and I'm watching her and she can just walk right up to her windows and wash them. I can't, because my couch is in front of my windows, so you have to climb on the couch or sit awkwardly, on your knees, bending over the couch trying to, it's like, no, I want to move things around. I want to get things taken care of. She talked about minimalism, paring down and decluttering and all of that. And, I've heard of the minimalist movement and I like it. I don't know that I could totally live that way, but I'd like to try. I really would. The things that I would not be able to get rid of, which kills me, is like special things, I've got a mug at home that when my daughter was in, I want to say it was like second grade, maybe third grade, fourth grade, somewhere in elementary school there. Um, they, they made pictures. They drew pictures or painted pictures or something. And then they had them made into a mug. I believe they made them into a hot pad. And I'm trying to remember what else. Because I know we had the hot pad and the mug. I think that might have been it. But, I've still got that mug, and I can't get rid of that, you know? I've got mugs that the kids have given me over the years. I can't get rid of those. I mean, I'm to the point I even have I have a box of greeting cards that I can't get rid of. They're, greeting cards from my kids. Greeting cards from Sally. Oh my God, she makes the coolest cards. She really does. I mean, she does the stamping and everything, and it is so cool. And of course, awesome little messages in there too. So I can't get rid of those. Those are special. Very, very special. So I have cards, and you know what? I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. It's one box, that I keep them in. So it's like no big deal. But, but I mean, there's all kinds of things that, I mean, do I really need? I mean, I know Bill was thinking about me the last time we had chickens, before this batch, but, several years ago when we had them, he got me a pasta maker. I mean, like literally making the noodles. And you just throw the stuff in there and it mixes it up, and then it's ready to pump it out, and then you just stand there and cut the noodles as you want them, or you put the little nozzle thingy on there that changes it from a from a spaghetti noodle to a linguine noodle, or all just weird things, and I mean, that's because you can make egg noodles, and that's what he was thinking. I get it and I love it. Haven't used it. Never. But I mean, it's a fairly big machine. It's like, a little bit bigger than a bread maker. It's big. We have 2 bread makers. Haven't used those either. I don't have any room on my counter for them. We have an air fryer. Actually, we have 2 air fryers. We have one of those little, not a panini press, but it's one of those, can't remember. It was an infomercial many, 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 many years ago. And it's this little red round thing that, it's got little 2 wells in there, or you can put little, you can put a couple different pans in it and make stuff. I know for a while there, the kids and I were using it, a lot, and, I mean, it was fun. It was cool, but we haven't used that in years. And of course, I think about every time I look at it, I'm like, I should use that. And then, because I like, oh, I remember when we used to make this and we made it in here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and keep this, and we're going to do that. And then it just sits in the back of the shelf and it doesn't get used. Several things that I used to make, are not, not to somebody else's tastes. We'll just say that. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I have that I just don't use. So, but then like the other day that's the other day. It was like a month ago now. But anyway, we were going through some of the stuff in the kitchen there, and I've got a waffle maker that I got from my Uncle Frank. And I mean, we love waffles, but we forget we have it in there because it's tucked away. And it's like, as soon as you see it, it's like, oh, we need to make waffles. And you can make waffles out of all kinds of things, not just pancake mix, but you can use, you can make like a pizza waffle. You can do, I mean, all kinds of weird things. You can make hash brown waffles, but yeah, I mean, there's, but if I put it away and it's buried underneath stuff or behind stuff, I don't see it. I forget I have it, so that's part of my, that's part of, yeah, that's me. But So I'm looking at all this stuff and I'm thinking, do I really need this? And I don't. But like with the pasta maker, it was expensive and but I don't see myself using it, and I feel bad because he paid all this money for it and he thought he was doing something really nice and I appreciated it, but at the same time I'm like, I'm not going to use it. So, it was just it's stuff like that. But when you look at the minimalist stuff, the minimalist lifestyle, it's getting rid of that stuff and just going with the basics that you need. No extra frivolous stuff. I mean, she had a vacuum, she had a mop, she had, dish soap. I mean, it's not like she made her own dish soap or anything, but I don't know, maybe she did, and it's just in a Dawn container. I don't know, but I mean, there's all these different things that she was doing and she was talking about, and um, it's just so relaxed. And it's just something that I think would be so nice, to be able to do something like that and not have a deadline. I think that's part of my biggest problem is, you know, like yesterday morning, I went out and I took care of the chickens and I walked around the garden, checked stuff out. Um, Bill brought in yesterday afternoon, oh my God, we have a huge zucchini and then we have a bunch of huge cucumbers. We have some yellow squash growing. We have, I think he said it's acorn squash growing as well, to harvest. We have peppers coming in, or snap pea or sugar snap. Yeah, I think they're snap peas. But anyway, they're done. I'm so bummed because next year we're planting a whole garden just of those. God, they are so good. But our tomatoes are flowering now, so we're gonna get some tomatoes soon. But so we got a whole bunch of stuff from the garden. So, yesterday like I said, I got up, I went out and did the chickens and I was relaxed because I didn't have to rush so that I could get to work. I didn't have to plan, okay, so I have to do this and then I have to do that and then I have to do that so that I can do this and then I can go to work and then I can do that. I didn't. I just got up and I did it. And it was so nice. It was so nice. So, and then, when Bill brought that stuff in, so during the day, I was thinking, okay, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? I was actually thinking ahead. I pulled out some chicken thighs, okay, boneless, skinless, and so I pulled those out and just had them thawing, in the oven, with the light on just to make it a little bit quicker. But, so then Bill brought those veggies in, and they're sitting there on the counter, and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, he said, well, maybe with dinner tonight we can take, the one tomato that we have left and cut that up in a cucumber and add a little dressing to it, a little Italian dressing, and just let it sit and marinate for a while. So I'm like, okay. So I washed up the cucumber or one of the cucumbers and washed up the tomato. I cut them up and I, to chunks, put them in a container, added a little Italian to it, shook it up, and put her in the fridge and let her cool, let her marinate. So did that. And then he's like, so what are we having for dinner? And I said, well, I pulled out some chicken. He said, okay, what are we having with the chicken? I said, I don't know. He's like, okay, you have to tell me what we're going to do with that chicken before. And I said, I don't know yet. So we were looking online, and one of the ideas that he had was fried rice. Well, I've never made fried rice before, so I looked that up, and we love to go to All Recipes on YouTube. And Nicole McLaughlin, I think her last name is. She does these all recipes videos, and she is funny. She's good. We love to watch her. But she had a recipe on there for fried rice, and it took like 15 minutes. But she already had chicken that was cooked and frozen or whatever, so she just thawed it out. And then she had leftover rice from something else. So she already had that stuff done. So I had to cook up the rice. And then she said, if you have to cook it up, flatten it out on a tray and then put it in the fridge and let it cool. So I did that. I also took the thighs, and for some reason, when you get chicken thighs uh, like that, you end up with all kinds of fat on there. So I had to cut off all the fat on there. And so I did that, trimmed them up, and then I cut them up and I put them I fried them up. And then, and then I took them out and then put the veggies in, which we just had potatoes and not potatoes. We had peas and carrots, which he said don't do the carrots next time. But we did the peas and carrots, and I added them and the chicken in, or no, I added them and the rice. I put the rice in, and I just let it set, and then would stir it up a little bit here and there, and so it got the little crunchies on it, like Nicole talks about on all recipes. So did that, and I mean, but it was like it was busy work, and I was doing it, and I enjoyed it because I didn't have to rush. It wasn't coming home after a day of social anxiety and pressure at work, and I didn't have to deal with that. So I was able to just make dinner, and I enjoyed it. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, I'm kind of really looking forward to retirement. And I'm not old enough yet for retirement. I am not. Granted, my husband retired at 41, but he was in the military. So he did his 21 years, and, he was able to get out and retire at 41. Really? 41? Anyway, lucky bugger. Anyway, so, but I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm like, that's the kind of lifestyle that I want. I want the homemaker, homesteader, minimalist. That's what I want. I think if we all got back to that, I think it would just be a much more relaxed life. There would probably be a lot less anxiety out there, a lot less anxiety meds being taken. You just live. And yeah. Okay. Anyway. So that was, oh my God, 27 minutes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So I'm going to let you go now. And you guys have a great rest of your day. And I will talk to you later. I love you guys. Bye.